Hello, and welcome to the 29th installment of the Extreme Hardware Podcast. My name is Simmons, and today I am joined by a rather interesting yet familiar crowd. First and foremost, we've got our Frickulous Horseman.
Greetings.
We also have our buddy Navjack, yet again.
Yo, sup?
And I think that's it. So moving into our first article, we do have a forum-related announcement. Because of the overwhelming success of the last Folding at Home event, EHW will be doing another folding event between June 3rd and June 5th of next month, obviously. There will be prizes. I do not believe the prizes have been announced yet, but we would like to all see you there, and I intend to kick Alex's ass yet again during this event. So NVIDIA GTC 2020 just occurred recently. Was that like 3 days ago or something like that?
Yeah. I watched it after they uploaded it to YouTube. It was pretty neat to see Jensen in his kitchen.
So a couple of the key points that they brought up, and I'll just talk about the headlines, is DLSS 2.0, NVIDIA Omniverse, NVIDIA Ampere, which is obviously going to be the new architecture that they're working on, DGX, and NVIDIA Edge AI. Those are the main points. All right, so DLSS 2.0. So DLSS was a type of super sampling that NVIDIA pitched, I want to say like 4 years ago. It was really interesting. Was DLSS the one where it basically upscaled the render of the application and then just shrunk it down to fit your screen, and it looked better than anti-aliasing typically did?
Yeah, pretty much. It would render at a lower internal resolution and basically waifu upscale it to your monitor, and does a whole bunch of stuff with different training data sets. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the new 2.0 version. I messed with that in Unreal Engine, and that was actually really hard to get set up because I had to compile it. And you need like this special ID string that gives you permissions from NVIDIA to be able to use it in your application. And
oh boy,
you have to do all this stuff. But I cheated around it by using their sample scene and then modifying it. That worked. I could put whatever I want in their sample scene. And yeah, I mean, it works. It looks really good. I have a video of it too that I just uploaded.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I'll have to give that a look. Yeah, so DLSS 2.0, this appears to be the newest rendition of DLSS. It's going to use the same idea where it upsamples the resolution, removes any filters, and then just reduces it to fit your monitor better. It looks the demos that I saw looked really good. I honestly couldn't see a whole lot of differences between DLSS 1.0 and 2.0. But I do appreciate that they are working on this technology, especially since ever since they first announced it, I didn't really see it take off. So I hope that we see more of this.
I really hope we see more of it too, mainly because I saw basically a doubling of my frame rate or more in any scene that I'm using in the Unreal Engine. And I bet that could be improved, because I'm just some, computer dumbass doing a thing in Unreal Engine. Just imagine what an actual developer could do with this.
Absolutely.
Now that it's way more open and it actually doesn't need training anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's the big one, is like the AI sampling that they had to do in the past was a little bit too labor intensive just to start from scratch.
Yeah. I still don't know how they really did that. I mean, Jensen would always talk about, they would be using the DGX servers to like render it like 64 times, the resolution. It's like, I don't know how the hell you do that, but they feed that into the thing and it learns that's how things should look. And yeah, but somehow they got it so you don't need to train it now, and it just looks good.
Yeah. So that's basically all there is to say about DLSS. We've got NVIDIA Omniverse, which apparently is an RTX server solution that it basically sounds like it's a render farm that you can utilize sponsored by NVIDIA. to do various RTX type projects and computes.
It's kind of like a collaborative, already up in the cloud development solution for doing pretty much anything with RTX on. Like you could have a whole bunch of people dial into this one instance, and they could all collaboratively edit using that one VM, which sounds kind of neat.
Yeah, and I'm all about it because, quite frankly, these RTX render nodes or compute nodes don't really exist yet, just due to how expensive these RTX cores are. So you would need somebody at like a supercomputer level to be able to put something together like this, and I don't think it's really justified yet. But hopefully, with this solution being available, more people can tap into these tensor cores and just better use it for AI and whatever else. It looks fun, and I think this is a good way to get people exposed to the architecture.
I looked at that demo that they released for Omniverse with the marbles and whatnot. It's pretty cool. It's surprisingly what it was. I mean, I'm not saying it was like mind-blowing or anything, but the reflections and the graphics, especially with the physics and everything, were pretty impressive.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like from what I was seeing is this render node solution that they're offering. It's basically those data center GPU modules that they just have loaded up in a bunch of like 4U rack mount servers, and they all just work in tandem with each other really well, just due to how they're architected. So the fact that you basically have a 20 to 40 to X number of GPUs working in tandem to crunch out a single project, it makes a lot of these kinds of trial and error processes a lot more efficient. Because I'm sure you especially have experience with, you try doing some of these settings, you wait a couple hours for it to finish, and then you realize it's foobar after the fact.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I'm all about this kind of thing. I hope the pricing is reasonable, and I hope this does lead to, I mean, either more utilization of what the tensor cores have to offer, and then maybe even AMD getting into gear and offering their own ray tracing GPU solution to add some more competition to the market. You know, it's just, once the technology has a foothold, then there will be more of a desire for competition, in my opinion.
It's a lot more mainstream now, isn't it? RTX before was kind of like a meme, right? Just kind of like some stupid NVIDIA marketing gimmick for, well, that's what people thought it was. People that didn't know what ray tracing was. And to be fair, you can't blame them because there was never anything like it before. Now I think the consumers seem to know a lot more about ray tracing. Like, I think if you were to ask 100 people on the street what ray tracing is, like 100 gamers on the street, maybe 10 of them would tell you now before the one before. So it's making a foothold, at least.
Well,
I think NVIDIA is pushing it a lot more too.
Well, I mean, but the big thing to differentiate here is real-time ray tracing, because like ray tracing has always been a thing, but it's just not been feasible to do it on like a video game like style application where everything is constantly changing. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago with Minecraft RTX being a thing now. I'm going to say that I was one of the people who initially thought, wow, this is just a huge gag. But then you actually see it and you see the demos that people are doing. And it's like, this is what the big shaders mod from like 7 years ago was trying to be. And this is really fascinating that it's tapping into the GPU like this. So, you know, like the fact that we're seeing these developments to make it more accessible, or more accessible to developers, because that was a big one, is just not enough developers having the desire to develop something for RTX, especially given that RTX has been so expensive for a couple of years. But yeah, getting RTX in the hands of developers gets the market wanting to experience what these developers have done, and then it's the circle of consumerism. So hopefully we start seeing more RTX.
We're going to get more RTX because the Ampere architecture that they showed off. I'm just looking at these graphs and I'm like, okay, they're going from Volta to Ampere. Mm-hmm. They're skipping Turing because, you know, whatever. But I mean, that's a humongous difference there in all of those.
Now, what I will say is, first of all, I don't like the graph at all. I mean, at least they didn't pull. I must acknowledge the time that I called out Hardware Canucks for using a chart where the numbers were the same, but none of the graphs lined up.
Yeah.
They didn't like me for that. But it also turned out that it was just due to the scale they were using. Their numbers were actually rounded to the first decimal place. So it was like 0.1 or 0.8, and that's the differentiation we were seeing. But it just wasn't clear, and they didn't have that anywhere, so they had to go in and basically retroactively edit the video.
That's always fun.
Yeah. Sorry, Hardware Canucks. Not sorry. But okay. So, terrible graph aside, I'm curious as to what this actually means. Is this just flops that they're doing a measurement on here?
I'm guessing that's teraflops. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'm seeing FP64, FP32. Okay, so from a pure flops perspective, that is significant. What the hell? I'm curious to see what that actually looks like in reality.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's one of those things like NVIDIA always does that, doesn't it? They're like, oh, look at all this. But then it's like in some real specific scenario that like will never apply to 99% of the population.
Yeah. So like, Frick, do you see this graph that we're looking at here?
I do. I see it.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing I want to point out that I don't like about it, and I know I'm harping on this again, is the number that they're representing, or that they have listed above the graph, is the peak. It's not the actual measured line. So pay attention to the solid bar, not the little number on the top. Regardless, that is still a 100% increase going up the line. So it's like, that's impressive. I hope to see if this actually translates to reality. And I look forward to seeing our next $3,000 3080. No, I'm kidding.
I love this. Like people saying Moore's law is dead. NVIDIA killed Moore's law.
Yeah.
What's the Amdahl's law or whatever? Is that the thing with parallel computing?
I think so. Yeah, that one I'm not super familiar with.
Yeah. Anyway.
But
yeah, I'm expecting paying probably like $1,800 for a 3080 Ti, and I actually wouldn't bat an eye.
No. Don't say that. If you say that, they're gonna do it.
That's the thing is like here's my thing. I'm looking forward to seeing third gen RTX or the 3000 series GPUs. I think that makes more sense.
In the second gen?
It would be second gen. I'm kind of flubbed that, but I'm looking forward to seeing 3000 series because I want to get myself a 2080. And once the 3000, or right before the when I bought my 1080, it was right before they announced the 2080. And people were expecting it to be a really significant increase going from the 1080 Ti to the 2080. It wasn't. It was like a 5% to 10% performance uplift with the addition of RTX. I managed to get my GTX 1080 on eBay for $200.
What?
Yep. Huh. And I bought it like 4 days before all of the embargo lifts went out. So people were freaking out, and then not even a week after, I went on to eBay to check again. Yeah, all the all the 1080s were back up at $350, $400. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I hope any of our viewers don't fight me. I'm going to get a 2080. Don't steal it from me.
You're really not going for
the main thing. There's a great series that Linus does. He buys a graphics card off Wish. He just sees like what he gets. I guarantee you the amount of phony Wish 2080s or 3080s are going to be going up in a few weeks. It's going to be astronomical.
And that's my thing, Jack, is I haven't bought a new GPU in years.
And you don't have any want to get one with more VRAM? You're really just going to stick with an 80, even if it's the same amount of VRAM for the next gen?
If I can get a 2080 Ti, I mean, I absolutely would. However, like, I'm still running on 1080p here, so like I'm going into it so I can play Minecraft RTX.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
The addiction continues.
Oh man, getting back into Minecraft again was a mistake.
Well, actually, the prices for them right now, I'm on Newegg, $800 for 2080 right now, hybrid.
Yeah, well, But also what you're dealing with is prices of 2080s and 2080 Ti's increased because of the COVID-19. Everybody just started buying a computer.
You're right.
And people are also toilet paper buying computer parts because, oh no, the COVID's going to shut down everything. No, it's just gonna slow it down a little bit. Don't be an idiot. But regardless, that's what happened. I remember there were numerous videos that went up on YouTube from various YouTubers. It's like, hey, here's this $800 build guide that you can do right now. And then a day later, they changed the title. Do not buy this right now.
Yeah, so right now, the cheapest 2080 that I could find on Newegg is $650. MSI GeForce 2080, 8 gig, not bad.
And that's solid. And honestly, and with that current price, I could predict that when we get closer to the actual 3000 series release, which did they even announce a potential release date yet?
I don't think they set a date, but I'm still expecting somewhere like October,
Q4.
November.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like I'm expecting that if it's currently sitting at around $650 for a 2080 now, that I could probably start seeing them on eBay maybe a month or 2 weeks before for right around $300 to $350, and that would be a price that I would be more comfortable with.
I'm so sketchy about buying any sort of used card off eBay because after I saw how easy it is to flash those to say they're a card and then not something else.
Well, so that's where you have to do your homework, right? And like for example, when I built my 2 folding rigs, all of those parts, with the exception of the power supplies and the cases themselves, I bought off of eBay. So the motherboards, I got 2 X99 Dark Micro ATX motherboards. I got 16 gigs of RAM between the 2 systems. I got these like $40 SSDs. They're running great. They've been running 24/7, 365 for the past 2 years. My Fury X I got off of eBay, and I'm still running that thing since when I bought that, like, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
How do you know if you're getting something real or something that's going to be a bamboozle?
So you got to know the signs. So the big thing with what Linus was talking about with those Wish GPUs, those were very obvious scams. They were $60 GTX 1060s.
He was doing a public service by getting them.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the other thing is like that brand that he was buying those things, it was very obviously not a reputable brand. Nobody's ever heard of the brand before. It was a very bizarre GPU because it had a custom shroud on it, and it just didn't make any sense. So like when I'm looking for hardware, I start looking for specific model numbers. And then usually when people list the actual model number, that helps you find a better part. And then you can start communicating with the seller. Hey, I would like to see this screenshot, this screenshot, this screenshot. If you don't get a response in an adequate time, or you don't get a response at all, you go to the next seller.
How easy is it to fake a GPU-Z screenshot? Like if I opened up GPU-Z with a fake GPU, is there any way to trick GPU-Z to think it's something else?
There is, but it's kind of challenging. You actually have to go out of your way to flash a BIOS.
Okay, so it is possible. You can. I mean, that's the main thing people use, GPU-Z. So that's legit.
But that's the other thing is like you also have to know is like, okay, so if I got this GPU, say we use a 2080 for example, what would be a GPU that they would try to use to fake it? Probably a 2060 Super. And you look at GPU-Z or you look at whatever else, and then you can see the very obvious red flags, like frequencies that they didn't bother to change because frequencies are harder to spoof in GPU-Z. And then there's a few other one-offs. I mean, even with those fake 1060s that Linus was buying, GPU-Z came up with red flags. So it is what it is. And then let's see the last couple things to note from the Keystone. It's a DGX is a mini supercomputer. It appears to be a one-off solution that NVIDIA is producing, where it's a high compute node that you can just buy directly from NVIDIA and have it set up in your office or your render farm or wherever else.
I guess an interesting thing though about it is they're using AMD Rome.
Oh,
they got
Imagine
2 of them.
That. Imagine that.
Yeah.
So they're Epic CPUs.
Yep.
which makes sense.
With a terabyte of memory between them.
Oh my gosh.
I kind of want to take out a small loan and get one of these.
Yeah, you know.
What's the warranty on that thing, I wonder? Is
Can I get a
lifetime or
mortgage
like
on my
90
DGX?
days?
Can I get a mortgage on my DGX, please?
Just get one, and immediately you just start doing the best unfolding at home.
Dude, if you get one of these, you could probably rent it and make your money back within like a month or two.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, hey, there we go. All right, we need a small loan of $200,000.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, well, I'll call Kim. We'll make it happen. I'll say it's for a good cause.
So yeah, it is a. Okay, so
Yeah, it's cheaper than the previous DGX.
Half price.
yes. Is there anything significant to note with it? Oh, yeah. Well, of course, PCIe Gen 4 NVMe SSD storage. 15 terabyte is what they are offering.
Yeah, and I guess the more you buy, the more you save. Really?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, no, because they are all offering a bulk buy solution. So if you opt to get like one of the examples they gave was a 25 rack solution just filled to the brim with these DGX systems.
Just 25? Why stop there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it says. Yeah, it would be priced at $11 million. It would require 630 kilowatts to run, noting that it had 50 DGX1 systems for training and 600 CPU systems for interface.
Christ.
That's insane.
I feel like at
Yeah.
200K, no meme, that's a pretty good deal.
Honestly.
But you misread that, actually. The newest DGX A100 solution would be a $1 million deployment for one rack at 28 kilowatts. That's the same amount of power for less money and less power from the wall.
Yeah, which is significant. Honestly,
I can't picture that. I can't picture getting that much of an improvement in an architecture and everything else without, I don't know, aliens being involved.
I mean, honestly, what I think it comes down to is because one of the things that they were mentioning is 600 gigabyte per second NVLink is now a thing. So that's probably one of the biggest things that helps is like the latency between the different nodes is probably the thing that kills the performance.
Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of things talking about how like now moving data is the thing that a whole bunch of architects are trying to optimize for now, since that takes so much power to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some solutions where basically they just mill these massive like 2 terabyte RAM disk nodes just so they can offload data faster.
Oh, wait a second. That brings up an interesting point. Is a RAM disk now faster than our current NVMe SSDs?
Oh, 100%.
Really? Yeah. How much more faster?
I think it's like a factor of 5.
Yeah, I mean, like you could have DDR4 that's going 40 gigabytes per second, and what NVMe is like 4 or something.
Does that mean that the newest PlayStation 5, which has the fastest SSD ever made, is still slower than even the most basic RAM disk?
Correct.
Jesus Christ, why are we not using those?
Well, okay, so keep in mind, Frick, the biggest problem with RAM disk is that it's volatile storage. If you have one moment of a power blip, all that data you're storing on your RAM disk is gone. If you are not using ECC memory with some sort of redundant power solution, data corruption is absolutely an issue.
Yep.
What about for like a game or something? Like if you just install a game and you just have it on there, and I'm not talking about having like an OS or anything on there, but it's like install a game on there and play it off the RAM disk.
Yeah, I mean, for a home desktop workstation, you could totally do that if you have enough RAM. I mean, yeah.
And how much does Minecraft take up? Like 2 gigs, 3 gigs?
Well, it depends. What mod pack are you using?
I mean, people have already messed around with that before, using RAM disks to load up stuff. But there's other issues when it comes to doing that, because that starts to become a file system bottleneck. There's like a weird bottlenecking thing that goes on when you actually use RAM and, use a RAM disk program to make it actually be storage, that it's not actually using the full potential of what it could be.
That's what's so interesting about Sony is they managed to make the fastest SSD in human history, and they've never done it before. That just blows my mind.
So here's the other thing I want to point out there is, because Navjack brings up a good point. The file system is absolutely the big killer of RAM disk. In the data center environment, they use a networking structure known as iSCSI.
Yep.
Or ISCSI, and it's actually intended for moving massive amounts of data at maximum IOPS. At a point, they stop measuring in terms of data bandwidth, and they measure it in terms of IOPS because of how many nodes can be hitting a single iSCSI instance at once. So RAM disk as a cache for SCSI makes perfect sense. But once you start going into the commercial space or the consumer space, you need it really becomes more of an experiment of, hey, I wonder if I can do this. Hey, it works. Hey, it's not getting the numbers I want. And it's a software problem at that point.
Wait a second. What about this? What if you've got 5 NVMEs in like RAID 0? Would that be faster than a RAM disk?
No.
What? I was actually, side note, I was going to mess around with that since I have 2 NVMEs. They're not the same brand, but I mean, they benchmark about the same. And I was going to put them in RAID to see where the bottleneck actually would be, because wouldn't it still be the same speed since you're still limited by just the PCI that goes to your CPU?
Right, and that's a good point, because I think PCI 3.0 might actually come to issues after maybe the second NVMe drive, just due to bandwidth limitations. And that's the other thing that you have to factor in, Frick, is if you go with like standard consumer chipsets like Z370, X570, stuff along those lines, you're limited on total PCI Express lanes. So if you have a couple of NVMe drives in your system with a GPU, those NVMe drives are probably only be getting half of their potential bandwidth.
Yeah.
So that's where like Threadripper comes in, where you have 64 PCI, well, technically 60, but 60 PCI Express lanes available to you to be able to do stupid stuff like that, right?
Or Cascade Lake. Let's be nice to Intel.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't speak for that just because I've only been on my 1900X for the past 4 years. so yeah,
basically is get 100 gigabytes of RAM.
Yes, that's exactly what we're saying.
That's what I've learned.
Get 128 gigs of RAM and
you gotta get Threadripper.
XFS, ZFS, ButterFS. What do you think would be a good file system for it?
For him, probably ZFS.
Okay, yeah. I could see that with the snapshotting and everything, just in case if the RAM goes weird. And you could, as you shut down, you could save the RAM disk to an image to your hard drive. You could make it happen.
To be fair, I don't know if you guys have seen the prices of RAM lately, but they're rock bottom. They're hella cheap.
Oh, yeah.
Now's the time. Yourself some cheap.
There you go. And I think that's really it. I did bring up the NVIDIA Edge AI before, but there wasn't really a whole lot that I could extrapolate from it. Maybe I didn't really watch the entire Keystone. So do you know of anything noteworthy for Edge AI?
Nah, I would just be stealing from Gamers Nexus for the article that we're reading.
Honestly, watch their video. Steve did a great job on the video.
It was really interesting stat number that they gave from NVIDIA's Edge AI, and it had to do with their automation solution, which I guess Edge AI is NVIDIA EGX A100, which I guess is it's their automation network solution, right? What was interesting about it was they mentioned they were working with BMW and how BMW builds cars. They must use automation for that. Crazy thing is that they said with this, you can build an entire car, in 56 seconds. What? That's insane.
Okay, what does that mean? Build a car in 56 seconds.
One car every 56 seconds. That's what it says in the article.
Okay, so
they have multiple cars running at the same time on the production line. They don't do one at a time.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I guess that's because the Edge AI thing talks to everything on the production line, like the robots and everything. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here.
Love the robots.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, right here on this graph from NVIDIA, they got a picture of a robot arm. They got a stethoscope. They got a shopping cart. They got a factory from Monopoly or something like that. They got a city, and then they got a house, and then they have a microphone, a camera, and a thermostat. So if you have any of those, get some Edge AI. It seems good.
So moving on to our next topic, since we've talked about NVIDIA quite a bit, and we briefly mentioned AMD, AMD has just recently released the R3 3300X and the R3 3100 4-core 8-thread CPUs.
Yeah, I've been sitting this one out, but it's been interesting to see what people have been doing with it that I completely didn't expect. I thought this was just going to be another low-end part, but apparently it overclocks like a beast.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe their binning got better.
Intel is finished? Can you guys say Intel is finished?
I can't actually. How do I say that? No. So a couple of key points with this CPU. The R3 3100 is a $100 4-core 8-thread CPU, base clock 3.6 gigahertz, 3.9 gigahertz boost. The 3300X is a $120 CPU, also 4-core 8-thread, 3.8 gigahertz base, 4.3 gigahertz boost. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
For that price with that boost speed, this is like the perfect entry level CPU.
Yeah, no question.
We're referencing Gamers Nexus's reviews because they actually do graphs that I like. The benchmarks are exactly what you expect with those frequencies, and I've also seen a couple streams where people have taken liquid nitrogen to these CPUs, and they actually scale up very well because of the base TDP of these things is relatively low. I think it's like 60. It's like 40 watts or 60 watts or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they just scale up really well. The thermal boost that AMD implements is actually a linear thermal boost. So the colder it is, it'll actually just progressively shove more and more voltage into the damn thing. So love these CPUs. They're going to be sold out. The prices are going to inflate immediately. I already know it. But yes, I've got a couple buddies who've been hitting me up for some assistance with entry-level gaming computers. And now that these have hit the market, I'm like, oh, crap. Well, it would have saved them a couple $100. So
yeah. Bought some RAM for that.
And one of the other things that I didn't check is, did the 500 series B chipset come out yet? Once we get these cheaper chipsets, that means that we'll probably have like $100 CPU paired with a $80 to $120 motherboard, and that's pretty neat, and I'm really happy about that. Because honestly, for people who are doing just straight gaming, you could really skimp out on these CPUs, get a 3100X, and then get yourself something like a 2070, and you would still have a really great gaming experience.
You could pair this with a 580 and still do pretty well.
You want to get a borderline political for a moment.
Oh. Lord.
Oh, yeah, that one. That's a fun one.
So the United States government has been apparently talking with semiconductor companies about bringing chip fabs to the United States. Specifically, Intel has been involved with this discussion. TSMC has been involved with the discussion. And it looks like the U.S. is trying to incentivize bringing these chip manufacturers to the U.S.
Does NVIDIA have their own fab?
They use oh shoot, who does NVIDIA use?
Don't they use TSMC too? I
think so. Apparently, well, they either use TSMC or Samsung.
Okay,
depends.
Right.
But yeah, the big thing to note with this is just that there are public talks now about this incentivization to bring these companies over here. I don't know how well they would actually thrive here in the States, just due to manufacturing costs in the States being significantly higher than the places where they're already set up.
Yeah.
But
it's one of those things where you gotta think about, okay, this is going to come over. How is this going to affect the price of chips? For example, they brought one of the brands I buy a lot of clothes from is Louis Vuitton, and Louis Vuitton. It's similar way to this, brought a lot of their factories from France and Italy over to the US. The prices stayed the same. Like it made no effect on the prices whatsoever. So I'm kind of curious, like, okay, now that these fabs are going to be here in the US, what's that going to do to the price fluctuation? Is there going to be one even?
Well, so I feel like the biggest issue here is one of the advantages that these fabs have with their current setups is they produce a silicon, but they still need a PCB produced. Where are those PCBs produced? They're in this exact same regions that TSMC already currently exists. So, I mean, sure, it might mean a net increase in number of chips that are being circulated in the market, but I don't know if it's really going to make a difference. If anything, all it's going to do is going to increase the number of chips that exist, but then there's still going to be a bottleneck for the actual GPUs or CPUs or RAM modules potentially that they have a desire for. Like the only way that this would truly be a successful endeavor is if, with the bringing of TSMC over to the States for manufacturing, that we also had PCBs and we also had other various board partners also setting up manufacturing within continental United States or North America, just to cut down on shipping times and then being able to pump distribution straight into the United States and the Canadian markets.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that that the chip shortage that people have been complaining about is necessarily what they think it is. There was a point where there was a true silicon shortage in terms of produced dies, but that was a blip for a while, and that was only really specifically related to those Intel CPUs that they just could not produce a lot of. But everything else was still being pumped out with no issues. So
we're not going to anytime soon, so I think we're fine.
Right.
Yeah, I want to bring up a whole bunch of information that Dr. Ian Cuttress brought up in his YouTube, which is called Tech Potato.
I got to subscribe to this.
Yeah,
man.
he brings up a couple things in there. First of all, TSMC is going to be bringing this factory to Arizona. They said it's going to be creating 1,600 new jobs, something like it's going to cost like $12 billion from 2021 to 2029.
Jesus Christ.
And what else is in Arizona? Who else has a fab there?
I know Intel has all their fabs in Malaysia, don't they? So it's not them.
Intel has a fab basically right there in Arizona where TSMC wants to be bringing this up.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, obviously Intel doesn't, it can't just be like, oh, you can't build here. And, do like a little mob thing. I got to bring up another thing. Foxconn was going to be building a plant in Wisconsin.
I heard about that. Yeah, that was a while ago.
That was a long time ago. That was, I think, 2017, 2018.
Did that ever come to fruition? I don't think it did.
Foxconn got a whole bunch of subsidies, tax breaks, whole bunch of stuff. Still has not been built. And I think that's the same thing that's going to happen to TSMC in Arizona. They're going to get a whole bunch of tax breaks. They're going to say they're going to be doing all of this, and I'll be surprised if I see it actually end up getting built or being used for anything really high end.
I feel like Intel could just bully TSMC whenever they want because they're worth like I think 3 times as much as TSMC is. Like they're worth a lot more, and they have a lot more. They're a lot more familiar with the world of backhanded corruption dealings than TSMC is.
I thought TSMC was worth more. I don't know why I thought that.
67 billion US.
Huh.
Intel's worth about 250 billion.
Yeah. Okay.
So they can bully them, and there's one thing Intel likes to do, and it likes to do stuff in the shadows, like, oh, what? We didn't know this was going on. Oh, we'll put a stop to it immediately. They do it all the time. I can't imagine now it'd be any different.
I can't imagine building a fab, though, in Arizona, and, you need water to build a fab.
Got rain.
We just got to continue to drain the water table. It's fine.
Yeah.
It'll be good. Fracking. That's the solution.
Fracking. Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on to this next article here. Samsung unveils its new SSD PCIe Gen 4 and its E1.S form factor.
Oh, speaking of RAM.
No, this is SSDs, Frick. We're not talking about RAM disk.
And this killer, potentially?
The big thing to note for me, obviously, is Samsung PCIe Gen 4 SSDs. We knew they were coming, but the E1.S form factor is actually pretty interesting. It appears to be a different pinout and width than NVMe. It looks like it is slightly wider. It looks like either 31.5 millimeters for the short variant, or they're also talking about an E1.L form factor, which is 38.4 millimeters. The length is relatively the same, 110 on M.2 versus 111.49 on E1.S. But on E1.L...
I really want that E1.L.
Yeah, E1.L is a whopping 318.75 millimeters long.
I think that's about as long as my graphics card.
It is just about... It's not quite 3 times as long as a standard M.2 110.
Is it so long?
You know
why. You know why.
I do.
You know what my biggest fear with this? Because when I bought my first M.2 SSD, I'm like, oh my God, this thing is so fragile. This thing is tiny. I can snap it with my fingers. This one is going to be even more fragile because you have a lot more leverage to snap the thing in half.
I just want to see a motherboard with a whole bunch of like top facing slots for them. So you just have a whole bunch of long sticks just coming out of your motherboard.
Well, okay, the problem with that is if you are saying that this 318 millimeters is similar to the length of your graphics card, could you tell me with confidence that you could fit a graphics card sticking perpendicular out of your case?
Who said anything about a case?
Oh my! You see, this is the problem. Let's see. The new SSDs will be available from anywhere in 960 gig capacities to 7.68 terabyte capacities.
Perfect.
So that explains the E1.L form factor.
I guess maybe they didn't want to use bigger chips and put less bigger chips on the smaller thing to get more capacity. I don't know how things work. I'm dumb.
I like these numbers. 6,500 read, it's 3,500 write. That's insane.
Yeah. So that is due to PCIe Gen 4. But here I gotta note something really important for me and me only. Okay. They are apparently releasing Gen 4 U.2 form factor drives. Okay. That is amazing. I want more U.2 in my life. It doesn't fit anywhere in my case, but I love it. U.2 is like that bastard child form factor because it's intended for SCSI hard drives or SCSI SSDs, I should say, where the data, the power, and then extra data pins are included all in one single long connector. It's just about as wide as the PC or as the SATA power in the SATA data connector, but better because it interfaces directly into the PCI Express.
It looks like it's waiting to break that PCIe slot. I do not trust this thing at all.
Yeah, so the thing is, U.2 on the standard consumer level didn't make a whole lot of sense because the motherboard that I have, the X399 Asus board, it came with 2 U.2 connectors, and that was one of my reasons why I bought this thing. Nice. The problem is I found out that the U.2 connector is basically a standard SAS connector. I can't remember the exact 4-digit number, but it's the SAS connector, but with a different pinout solely for the PCI Express interface. And then when you go to actually plug it into the drive, you have this weird adapter cable that has the large SAS connector bus plugged into it, and then you have to plug a SATA power cable into that because the U.2 connector doesn't actually provide enough power or any power at all. It's just data.
Huh.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for consumer use, but I want 7 of these.
Oh, God. Are they more expensive because of the hideous form factor, or are they the same price?
Well, initially when they came out, because Intel was, it was the Intel 750 series SSDs, because they had their direct PCI 4X SSDs that came out for NVMe, and then they had their U.2 drives. They were the exact same price, but the difference was you would get the U.2 drive, and which did come with its own U.2 adapter cable, so that was perfect. Or
is Intel doing anything with SSDs? I haven't heard a peep out of them.
Intel SSDs are like the de facto for the server space. You don't see them really in the consumer space. Intel SSDs have been some of the most reliable in the server space for years, actually.
Actually, they don't do consumer that much.
Actually, the coaster that I'm using is a Intel 300 series server drive that the connector was chopped off of. So that's a little fun fact. Back when the little flash chips were like 8 gigs per flash chip.
Oh gosh! Wow. Yeah. Where are you gonna keep all that storage?
It was an 80 gig drive. It's fine.
It was only $500. No big deal.
Well, I mean, I didn't pay for it, but hey, it's a coaster now. So U.2 is silly. It was the exact same price to get the PCI form factor drive as well as the U.2 form factor drive. The PCI form factor ones were more entertaining for the high end PC building market because EK Waterblocks actually released a custom water block with bridge for those 750 series Intel PCI drives, which was pretty cool. I mean, it didn't line up with anything because they were about half the width of your GPU, but it was still pretty entertaining nonetheless. But yeah. SSDs from Samsung. That's exciting. Frick, This next one is your article. You want to talk about Mafia?
Well, it wasn't my article, but I do like Mafia, so yes. We'll talk about the greatness that is Mafia 3 and, Mafia 1 and 2. Okay, so there's a couple things. There's two. It's a big Mafia day because we've got two major Mafia stories. The first one is that Mafia 4's release date leaked, which is interesting. Mostly due to the fact that Mafia 3 was not the most well received and no one thought it was going to get a sequel. Big surprise. But it's being done by 2K Interactive, and it also says it's going to be releasing in 2021. Oh yeah, that's a little ways away. The important thing is not that, though. The important thing is that they're making a remaster. Mafia 1, Mafia 2, and Mafia 3. That's going to be coming out in a few months, actually. That's going to be pretty dope. I think the most interesting thing about it, though, is not just that there's going to be a remaster of it, but more people are finding out that Mafia 1 was actually an insanely good game. I don't think anyone played it. I know Mafia 2 is probably the most popular. I think it was the best selling of the series. Nobody played Mafia 1. So most people don't.
I remember buying it and playing it back when it first came out.
Yeah, I did as well.
It was like 20 years ago, dude.
Mafia 1. No, it's
not because Grand Theft Auto 3 came out around the same time. It just got washed over. But no, it's one of those games that just has aged so well, and it's so much fun to play. It just has a really unique charm to it, like 1950s Empire City, New York kind of thing. It's really good. But I don't know if you guys saw the screenshots for these. Did you see the screenshots, the remaster?
Yeah, it looks pretty wild.
Oh my god!
I haven't seen it at all because my immediate question was: are they going to be doing a remaster the similar way that Final Fantasy VII was remastered?
Oh no, that was a remake. Final Fantasy VII remake was a remake because it literally said remake in it.
Fair. I mean, like at this point, if it's the exact same story but on a new engine and it plays better or it plays smoother and it actually looks like a modern game, I would consider that a successful remaster. You are right. Final Fantasy VII is very different from the remake.
Now it's a little confusing because there's a couple different ones. There's Mafia 2 Definitive Edition, right? But then there's Mafia Definitive Edition, which is a full remake with an expanded story and not just a remaster. Mafia 2 is just a remaster.
No, that's interesting.
Are any of these going to be getting ray tracing?
Mafia Definitive Edition, August 28th, by the way, is when it's coming out. Good hype. Pretty soon. And then for this one right here, it doesn't mention anything about RTX, but I mean, if it's got anything to do with a remaster of a current game in current year, it's gonna have some sort of RTX.
Yeah, but better with all the chrome cars and stuff. It could look pretty cool.
Yeah. Like this one screenshot, I'll send it to you right here. This one screenshot of him just walking down the street. I mean, for those who have played the original game, this looks insane.
Oh yeah.
That's wow. That is impressive. And I love that setting too. Oh my gosh.
Just to give you an idea of how far it's come, here is what the original Mafia looked like.
I mean, if that's in engine, I'm not seeing any screen space reflection artifacts going on. I don't think. Maybe underneath the car. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but that looks really good.
And there's a better one.
Oh wow.
It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's
it's also a 20-year-old game, so.
Yeah, I would also say that is the kind of graphics I expected from that generation of games too. So, so like that probably looked really good way back when.
Yeah, no, it's true. But you know what isn't the weird thing I don't understand is that Mafia 2, which I mean, if you boot up Mafia 2 now, it's not a bad looking game at all. So I don't really know if there's too much they can do with that. Mafia 2 and Mafia 3 looks fine. That game did not come out that long ago. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where you're really buying this for Mafia 1. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this. Mafia 2 has that sort of look of like middle of the console lifespan where everything kind of has a like soft blur bloom effect to it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I call that like the Xbox 360 look.
Yeah, it's got a very distinct sort of 7th generation look to it. 6th generation, I think. Whatever. Yeah, that generation. It looks good on PC, so it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good stuff.
What's the next thing we got here? Thunder Spy. Yeah, you're talking about U.2 and all that, and I still don't have a thing that has Thunderbolt on it. And now I'm wondering if I should actually want something with Thunderbolt on it. So why don't you tell me about this story here?
So I really don't have a whole lot of details about what the Thunder Spy is, but it appears to be a physical attack on a system using a Thunderbolt port. From what it looks like, it is a kernel-related error for Linux kernel 5X and later, Mac OS 10.12.4 and later, and Windows 10 1803 RS4 and later, where if you can get direct physical access to a system's Thunderbolt drive, you can get the equivalent of root access to the system.
Oh, okay. So this actually isn't a big deal.
Basically from what I can tell. So this goes. So after I pulled up a couple other sites in panic real quick, but from what it seems like, it is yet another vulnerability related with physical security of a device. It has been known for years and years that in the cybersecurity space, the worst thing that you can do is grant somebody physical access to hardware. At that point, it's as good as gone. This is just another vector of attack if you gain physical access to the device.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like there are mitigations in place, but it's going to be on a vendor-specific level, especially with Windows-related systems. Not a whole lot to say about that. I still think that Thunderbolt is a great thing. I wish I could use it. For the love of God, I wish I could use it. Especially when I refer back to Linus's home system where he's got that 4U rack computer.
Yeah, and he has everything routed to other rooms using fiber optic Thunderbolt cables and all that.
Yeah. Well, how long has Thunderbolt been around?
Thunderbolt's been around for, I would like to say, close to 9 or 10 years.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
The second revision was by far the best revision, where they had widespread support for Thunderbolt 2. Thunderbolt 2 utilized a fiber interface for long-range connections. So you could get a 100 to 200 meter cable, basically giving you a Thunderbolt connection back to your system. And that's what Linus has set up at his place. He's got basically his monitors, and he's got this little Thunderbolt dock, and then all of his peripherals plug into this little Thunderbolt dock, and then it just routes to a Thunderbolt cable in his system in a different part of the house, I think in his attic or something. I love that kind of stuff. Thunderbolt 3, there hasn't been as much development on it because I don't think those kind of connections exist on Thunderbolt 3. As of right now, I wish they did. But once again, it's like, well, me personally, I can't justify like doing something like that because my desktop is quite literally right, like 2 inches out of my arm span to my right. So I don't really need it. However, it's still pretty neat and I like it. And the fact of the matter is with the Thunderbolt 2 docks, you can actually put an M.2 drive in them if they support M.2. So that's neat.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to get Thunderbolt in my next motherboard is AverMedia's 4K capture card that is the external version of their internal card. So it does 4K 60 FPS HDR capture and all that.
Yeah, and the new actually the new MacBook Pro is going to have 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports in it.
Nice.
See, and I really like how Apple's done the Thunderbolt implementation on those their Macs, just because they all function as either charge ports or data ports.
Yeah, that's as it should be.
That is freaking amazing. Like the HP laptop that I have for work, it's got Thunderbolt ports on it. They do not function as Thunderbolt charge ports.
Huh.
Is that something they'd have to do intentionally?
Yeah, no, that's due to a proper implementation of Thunderbolt. Because it's got to be able to do some sense as, is this a data connection? Is this a power connection? Also, there are these Thunderbolt docks you can get for these MacBooks where you can just plug your charger into the dock itself, and then you just plug the single Thunderbolt cable into your MacBook, and it's basically a desktop now.
Yeah, true. But let's not forget what Apple did, and they did it for us. Finally fixed the keyboard.
They did?
MacBook Pro finally fixes the keyboard. Yeah.
How many years did that take?
5 years. At least 5.
Yeah, let's talk about Doom Eternal. Phenomenal game, by the way. I absolutely love the game. I've never played it before in my life, but I love the game.
That's a glowing review from you.
I still need to get around to Doom 2016, honestly.
You don't. You could skip it and you could go right to this, and you won't be missing anything. It's fine.
But I want to play it. It looks so much fun. Doom.
Just watch my videos. You'll get the same experience.
All right. Listen. I guarantee that if you were to use that exact same logic from my perspective, you could just watch me stream cluster truck speedruns, but you don't get the same enjoyment out of struggling yourself.
It's a great game. Oh, the best money you could ever spend. It's dirt cheap. Everybody go buy it.
What, cluster truck?
Oh, it's so good for the price. Okay. My God.
All right. Well, let me do some little bragging real quick. So I've been I've taken about an 8-month hiatus on it, but I was actually doing speed running in cluster truck under a very niche category called truck flip percent. And basically, with any speed runs, the objective is to beat the game as fast as possible. Cluster truck is a platformer. It's pretty straightforward. Truck flip percent is a subset where your secondary ability is truck flip. If you've never used it, you get on a truck, and then if you jump off of it, the truck basically kick flips and then it inherits momentum. So the objective is to beat the game with truck flip being your secondary ability the entire time. You can switch your primary ability whenever you want. No big deal. And you can skip one specific level because it's just extremely challenging. When I stopped playing, I was 10 minutes away from the world record. The world record used to be 40 minutes. I got down to 50 minutes. I was doing really good, and then I got burnt out, and I haven't touched it since. Now the record is down to 30 minutes, and it makes me really upset.
Damn.
That's the world of speedrunning, dude. That's the world of speedrunning.
Yeah, but also the strat that I'm using isn't the preferred strat because it's even more RNG than truck flip already is. I really wanted to just gush about this for a minute. Do you mind?
Go for it.
Yeah, so the strat that they that has been the go-to has been there's the portable truck primary ability where you basically throw this grenade, it spawns a non-moving truck, and you can use that to do quite a few different cheeses, including launching yourself across the map if you time it just right. But I determined though is there's a recall ability where you click your primary click and then it will teleport you back to the last truck you touched. So if you can inherit enough momentum from the flipping trucks, you can jettison one of these trucks forward at exceptional speed, recall to it, and then it just basically takes you to the edge of the map. There's a couple issues though. The way the truck flips is very RNG based. So it's hit or miss, but you can kind of do some stuff to make it a little more consistent. And also, if you launch the truck too far, you can actually throw the truck through the end goal and you will not actually trigger the end goal because as you're warping forward, you're basically in a no-clip state. So it leads to some very interesting consequences.
Is it actually a no-clip state, or is it that the game ticks don't happen quick enough for it to register that you went through the goal?
No, it is a no-clip state because you will move forward at a fixed rate. You will clip through the ground, you'll clip through objects that would normally kill you. But as such, you will also click through the hitbox, which triggers the end of game or the end of level.
Okay.
So, yeah, I have done. And then also, if you jettison a truck if you jettison a truck forward at very fast speeds, I was trying to make a meme there, but it failed miserably. And your truck explodes when it hits an object from going too fast. While you're no clipping to it, it will just start clipping you backwards to the spawn point, and then you keep going.
Oh, God.
Up until you hit the kill box at the bottom of the map.
Interesting.
It's not, yeah. So if that happens, it basically kills your run. You need to restart before it goes too far. And the game doesn't have an instant kill button, which is wonderful.
But still, that's kind of weird.
Insta kill, as in you press a button and it kills you and resets you.
I'm saying it still doesn't have one. How big of a speedrunning community it has?
No, it does. It does have the button.
Yeah,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
that has been implemented since day one.
Yeah, I would think so.
And also another really fun category, which I haven't done yet, is Twitch %, where there's a integration where you add your stream key to the game, and then it links up with your Twitch chat, and then your Twitch chat can vote on ways to screw with the streamer.
Oh, nice. I like crowd control stuff like that. That's cool.
Oh, it's actually said that they're going to be making games specifically based around that function that you just said, where the chat can actually control what happens in the game.
Well, and actually, another one that I saw that was really interesting. It's not really like crowd control related, but it was this VR game that I saw some Japanese Twitter posting about.
Is that the one where people on the PC could play with people in VR, and the people in VR like try to hit them?
Yeah, it's basically
that looks so cool.
You have one person in VR, and then everybody else is just playing standard computer view. The person in VR is basically a giant and can pick up things and throw things at people, can pick up people, and it's basically a battle between PC users versus the single VR user.
Yeah, I'm down to do that.
So
I'm going to be a gigantic god that people try to take down. That sounds fun.
Oh, man. But anyway, back to Doom Eternal.
Yeah, so they got the Dunovo anti-cheat, which is not to be confused with the anti-tamper, and it only runs when the game's running. It doesn't really collect anything. It is a kernel mode driver, but the only thing it collects is how your computer interacts with Doom, which isn't that much of a problem. But I've seen from a couple of videos that people have been complaining that even in single player, it is lowering their frame rate. I haven't tested that yet, though.
There's been a lot of people saying that. It's all over. They've made a bunch of Steam reviews recently. It's like hundreds of them. Talking about, oh God, they messed this up. Why do they do this? The main problem is that it's for a mode that isn't like, it's good. Battle mode in Doom Eternal is really, really fun. It's not like the thing people come to play Doom for. So there was really no need to implement this now of all times. It doesn't make any sense. And then on top of all that, There was nothing wrong with it. Like everything was fine before.
So
like,
wait, what, they retroactively applied the de novo to it?
yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay. There's two types of de novo. The first is the actual anti-crack, which was at the start of a game, and that's been removed. That's gone. Then this came in after that, after they removed the anti-crack. It's like, why, Bethesda? Why would you? It seems like every time Bethesda does something good, they do 5 things that are just the dumbest thing you could imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, a way they could fix this definitely is do like some games do, where when you load up the multiplayer, it actually loads up a different executable. Because I want my single player experience to not be hampered at all by this.
Yeah.
And I still wouldn't be able to use Cheat Engine to access the console.
It's kind of similar. It's actually exactly similar. I think this is kernel based, and a new Riot Studio games Valorant did the same thing, except that was a lot weirder because that thing was on boot. It stayed on boot.
Yeah, and it's banned a lot of people for using throttle stop, CPU-Z, anything that uses that winring0.dll. It'll just ban you from the game, which is ridiculous.
It's not that. Thankfully.
Well, I guess that's somewhat of a positive that it's not exactly that, but still.
Yeah. I'm happy that it's only when the game's running. I'll mess around with it and see if it seems any slower, because I don't have any data from before the patch, unless I could go and revert things in Steam. But
yeah. So I've got a question more so about de novo, because de novo, every time I hear about it, it's because it's doing something horribly wrong. Is there any other real alternatives out there for these organizations to use?
I mean, kind of. It really just has to do with publishers and existing relations, and like they want this to be used in the game so it's not stolen or pirated and cracked, and it's kind of forced on to the developers to actually put it into these games. I mean, there's other ways you could do it, obviously, and I don't know any of them off the top of my head, but I mean,
sure. Yeah, because with the, because like it seems like it comes down to the fact that de novo has a history of either handling the games poorly or some other third reason, and I don't. With the amount of flack that they continue to get, you'd think that there would be another solution, but you just never hear about one. So it's like de novo is the only variant, and it's like, what? So I'm just curious about it. Or maybe just de novo has so much money that they can just pay developers to like, hey, use us, please.
I'm thinking it's like a living in the bubble, a bubble kind of thing for a lot of the finance people and the sales people that would be pushing it from the publisher to the developer. We're not going to let you sell the game. We're not going to do it unless you put these certain things in place. Those people aren't on the internet actually reading the articles about how it's only affecting legitimate customers and not people that crack the game. People that crack the game don't have it. Their FPS is better than the people that bought the game legitimately.
I think the main thing with this is like the most sales a game makes in like the first 72 hours. That's the number I've seen being thrown around. As long as it does that, I think it's either the first 72 hours or like the first week. As long as it keeps the game safe from that, that's good. And that's why Bethesda, or maybe it was id that said that, removed it after a certain amount of time. Because like, okay, we're good. That's all we needed it for. Now we can remove it and we can just chill from there. Because de novo does have a performance impact. It's been proven. Like if you put that in a game, there's a very good chance it's going to affect your FPS and it's going to have like a negative performance impact. Thankfully, they realized that, and that's sort of a new thing that we're seeing now. That they are actually removing it. Before, they never used to. They're like, we're keeping it in there forever. It reminds me of
all people who are complaining are the filthy pirates.
It reminds me of this old horrible. I don't know if it was like a DRM or what it was. It was called Games for Windows Live, and it was something implemented by Microsoft, where I think GTA 4 had it, and I think GTA 4 still has it. They never removed it or something. Or no, they did. They did. That's why they got rid of the multiplayer. But it was a system where it was so broken. It was so horrifically broken. Even if you own the game on Steam, if it didn't verify on Games for Windows Live, you just couldn't play it. If you own the game or something happened client side or you couldn't remember your login or whatever it was, too bad. Sucks. Can't play it. Oh well. That's all you get.
Great.
Yeah, and actually in the recent years, now that Games for Windows Live is dead, a lot of developers went back and removed all that. So it's something I think that developers are a lot more aware of now than they were before.
I guess that is a positive.
But I think it's only Bethesda that's been doing that. I mean, they released Doom Eternal. Like if you downloaded it right when it came out, didn't have anything in it. The next patch that they released put the de novo into the game, and then there was a couple minor patches after that they changed a couple things, but yeah, they eventually took it off the.
And I also find that kind of funny. Is like you have to speculate. Put on your tinfoil hat and speculate with me. But you wonder if the build that was pushed on launch was an inside job where they're like, no, we don't want to know. Please, for the love of God, don't do it. We're just gonna push it. And then somebody caught on. Is like, oh crap, we forgot to Nova. We better put this on.
I'm gonna be the realistic person and not the tinfoil hat person. I'm gonna say that the reason that was in there was because someone had a repository that was for reviewers, and they didn't clean up the repository before release, and someone didn't notice that one exe that was in there, and then they finally noticed it.
It's always that one exe.
Yeah, because it wasn't even in the main folder. It was in the other data folder for the game where the exe was.
That's one of those things that's really interesting now, is that whenever you release anything, there's going to be so many people that just deep dive to every single file. That's what happened with anytime Valve released any updates for Half-Life or whatever it is, like 50,000 posts on Reddit about, I dive deep into the INI and I did a hex editor on this, and that's what I found.
Well, I mean, but like when you look at Valve, I feel like they're in this special bubble because of how endearing they are for the community for whatever reason. And their history of just leaving wonderful, wonderful comments in the code for the video game. Like when the CSGO leak happened, we talked about that on our last recording. And the first thing people did was they went into the source code and they found all these comments about people insulting other developers, or I don't know why this is here, but if you don't have it, the game is going to break. Please, for the love of God, don't remove this and stuff like that. That kind of stuff is funny. And I think that's why Steam especially, or Valve content, gets those kind of dives. But, it is really entertaining to see what kind of stuff people bring up. I kind of am going to regret bringing this one up. But I remember when that one simulator by the one person who is no longer permitted to stream on Twitch.
Yandere does. Yeah.
Yandere Simulator is one of the most inefficiently coded games that I've ever seen. And I'm not much of a coder, but you just look at some of these checks that it's doing, and it does 64 recursive checks for one action, and it repeats the same check in multiple locations of the source code. That kind of stuff is fun when people do deep dives on that kind of stuff. Let's quickly gloss over the next one, but we have to talk about it. Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Video game of all video games. I got to talk about it. It needs to be known to the world. So recently, there's been talks of a new Tony Hawk game, right? Tony Hawk is going to be making a game after this, which is not... Oh, geez. Did you put... What?
No. Back to Tony Hawk, please.
Okay, anyway. All right, so anyway, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remaster has been announced. It's going to be coming out September 4th, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It's going to have multiplayer on it. It's going to have enhanced graphics. It's going to have a bunch of new tricks. And the original soundtrack's going to be there as well. You can only buy the game as a bundle, which is, fair enough. That makes brilliant sense today. And actually, if you pre-order right now, you're going to get a demo to the warehouse, which I think was the first level in Tony Hawk 1, if I believe.
Yeah, it was. So wait, what platform is this being sold on?
PC, Xbox One, PS4.
Ah, okay.
You can only get it on PC on Epic Store.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm so conflicted.
What?
I'm so conflicted. I don't like the Epic Store.
I mean,
But
Tony
it's
Hawk.
Tony
though.
Hawk. It's Tony Hawk.
You gotta get it. I think this is fantastic. I really, really hope they don't mess it up. I pray to God, please don't. Please don't.
Don't ruin this franchise.
They can't. I mean, because this is the original game, so they're not messing around, doing anything crazy. It's the original 2 games. They can't mess it up. So I think we're gonna have something pretty good.
So Drew's actually had a comment earlier. One of the things that he said was something along the controls do need to be modernized. Do you want to extrapolate on that at all?
No, because I don't remember what I said.
Fair enough. Yeah, basically it was something along the lines as going back to play the original game in current era is kind of clunky and unplayable on PC. So hopefully there are some optimizations done to the controls to make it a better experience. But even still, if I'm going to get this on PC, I'm going to play this on a controller. It'll be fine.
What's also interesting about it is not only are they releasing the new remaster, but they're also aging all the skaters realistically.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so all the skaters that you saw from like 20 years ago, they're going to look 20 years older.
So in other words, Tony Hawk's going to look exactly the same, but with a couple more wrinkles.
Yeah, probably. The man that's a perpetual this existential crisis is going to have another one in the game. I don't know if you've read Tony Hawk's Twitter, but it's the funniest thing ever. It's just a bunch of him. It's a bunch of his posts where people recognize him, but they don't think he's Tony Hawk. Hey, man, you look exactly like this guy, Tony Hawk. He's like, oh, really? Yeah, imagine that.
When a bunch of kids asked him to do a kickflip, and they were amazed that he was able to do it.
So, my favorite one was from a few years ago, where it was like somebody said, "Hey, are you Tony Hawk?" He's like, "Yeah." Why?
Why? Yeah, I like that one.
It's gonna be good. Yeah, Tony Hawk's cool, dude. I hope this is gonna be good, and I'm gonna buy it anyway. It doesn't matter, but still.
I hope they include the original N64 version soundtrack.
Was that a different soundtrack?
It was on the N64, so it was just like a tiny loop of like Primus for like a minute that sounded really bad.
I just want to hear Superman, and I'm good. That's it. You just have that song on loop for the whole game, and I'm happy.
That's going to be complicated, though. I mean, music licensing and all of that.
Well, they weren't able to license. They were able to license every song except for 5 of them. And the 5 that they weren't able to do were Anthrax and Public Enemy stuff.
Okay, I'm really not surprised about that, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Anthrax, but the 5. If you really want to know what the missing songs are, 5 missing songs are "Psycho Vision" by Suicidal Tendencies.
That's bad.
Committed by Unsane, Bring the Noise by Anthrax and Public Enemy, B-Boy Document by The High and Mighty, and Out with the Old by Alley Life. Wouldn't play ball. You know, Activision probably gave them a hella fat stack, so it must have been something else.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it sucks that we're missing those 5 songs, but just being able to play that game again in a modern setting with most of the original soundtrack, I'll be okay with that. Honestly, if they make the decision with the songs that they omitted, they're just gone, and it's just a slightly reduced version of the soundtrack, I feel like that'd be okay.
Yeah. Licensing's a real problem.
Yeah. Like, I just don't want to hear modern music in the in a remake of the classic game.
Oh, yeah. That'd be...
Call me a purist or whatever, but...
I mean, worst comes to worst, you can always just like open up Pandora and Steam Overlay and call it a day.
And last but not least, Unreal Tournament 5 has been announced.
Unreal Engine.
Sorry. I was projecting a little there. My bad.
Here. Say it again. We'll be quiet.
Okay. Unreal Engine 5 has been announced by Epic. Honestly, I kind of hope that you just leave that uncut, and that'd be funnier.
Yeah. This is nuts. That's what I'm gonna say, and I'll be glad to talk about this because
please go ahead.
Know that as soon as Unreal Engine 5 is like available, or I have to sign up for a closed beta thing, I'm gonna be screwing around with this like a crazy person. But yeah, so the first thing you'll notice if you've watched any of these Unreal Engine 5 videos is like, where the heck are the polygons? And I won't be able to tell you that because I don't know how they're doing this. I still don't. They got something called nanite virtualized micro polygon geometry.
That is quite the buzzword.
Yeah, it's basically like you could just import the assets that you create, in Mudbox or ZBrush or Maya. You don't have to do any, LOD details and simplify the geometry or anything. It'll just stream all of that somehow. And it's like per pixel on the screen based trimming of detail. So like everything looks perfect always. I don't know. I don't get it. And I also don't. Yeah, it basically is magic. And
not to mention all this with global illumination, dynamic global illumination.
Yeah, with multiple bounces of said global illumination. And I'm guessing it'll be accelerated. They're not mentioning any details, obviously, because, AMD didn't mention anything yet, and they don't just want to say RTX probably in here since it's an engine.
RTX enabled on Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, obviously it is, but it's going to be accelerated by everything that, has an acceleration structure for their architecture. But yeah, so you're going to be able to have multiple bounces of diffuse and specular global illumination, which is awesome, all in real time. Finally, you're not going to have any light map baking, which is awesome because I hate light maps in games. They take forever to bake. And
so I do have a question. How old is Unreal Engine 4 at this point?
Came out 6, 7. It was launched with the last generation of consoles, right? So at least 7 years.
Yeah, let's see what it says here. It says,
I'm curious about the age of Unreal 3 versus Unreal 4.
Remember, every time they've launched on the Unreal Engine, they've launched a new Unreal Tournament game with it.
Well, okay, sort of. Unreal Tournament 4 did not really come to fruition.
But they launched it.
They launched it as an alpha, and that was it.
Apparently, development on Unreal Engine 4 began in 2003. Which was before Unreal Engine 3.
Unreal Tournament 2004 didn't come out yet.
So no. My question is, when did it actually come out? Yeah, what was the lifespan of Unreal 3 versus Unreal 4?
Let's see. They unveiled Unreal Engine 4 2012. That was just unveiled. I'm going to say like 2014, 2013 or something like that.
Okay, so launch with the new consoles. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I got to say is the demos here look freaking amazing. Like they are gorgeous.
Being done on a PS4. PS5.
Yeah, PS5.
Right.
PS5, 30 frames per second, 4K, was it? Or 1080p?
1440p.
1440, yeah.
But still, that's impressive for a console, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
This is just the beginning. This is just the first thing. Imagine how much better it's going to look once they actually learn how to work with it.
So do you think we'll actually see an Unreal Tournament 5? Please, I beg of you.
Every single engine. Oh, you got to realize the guy that created Unreal Tournament and founded Epic, he still works at the company.
Oh, I'm aware.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, the player base for Unreal Tournament 2004 is still far superior to anything Unreal Tournament 4 has.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, they killed Unreal Tournament 4 for Fortnite.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
Me. Oh, I didn't want to end this stream on this hour, or this podcast on a sour note. Oh, God. But no, this engine looks gorgeous. I look forward to seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
It looks like it will be available for early preview in early 2021 with a full release later in 2021. And that is as specific as we've been given so far.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Simmons, I'm on the Unreal Tournament subreddit right now.
Oh boy.
I got some news for you.
Oh.
Well, the good news is Unreal Tournament 4 is still alive because the Twitch the Spring Blitz Cup is going on right now. You can go check that out.
Okay. Well, when I disappear right after this recording, you know why.
So the game is still active. However, there is rumors of a reboot coming out for the new engine.
So I doubt it. I mean, it even says right here on the Wikipedia, Epic plans to use Fortnite as a test bed for Unreal Engine 5. I think they're done with tournament.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Here's the thing: is
There's probably like 4 people at Epic that are like going to do that for tournament.
Yeah. See, here's my thing: is yes, obviously Fortnite is the big cash grab for Epic, but the gameplay is just so vastly different, right? Like,
yeah,
I miss my Twitch shooters. I miss my tribes. I miss my Unreal Tournament. I miss.
Have you looked into that new game that just came out, Ultra Kill? I think I've been playing it a lot lately, and it definitely satisfies that Twitch shooter thing.
I have not. I've actually not heard of this.
Okay, I'll give you the link. It's called Ultra Kill. It's on Steam. It's dirt cheap. You should get it. I'll give you the trailer. Go on.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Here's the preview trailer. Yeah, it's a Twitch shooter, modern, looks great, looks amazing, cheap. It's combo based. So you would get like as you go through, you go around, you get combos. It's really entertaining.
Yeah,
don't watch that trailer. Don't watch the trailer. Watch the speed run, the high score speed run. Give you a better idea of the game.
Yeah, because here's my thing is like, because I played Quake Champions when that came out. That game was a mistake, but I still had a lot of fun. It did fill a lot of that niche after they fixed it, because that game when that first came out was too slow. It was just it just felt sluggish. And then after all the backlash, they finally did something. It's still not as fast as the old games. I don't think anything will be, quite frankly, with the exception of maybe like Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal.
Really best.
It like that kind of just ludicrous speed gameplay is really hard to do in current era and do it well. And props to
multiplayer. To be fair, we're talking about multiplayer.
Yeah,
a lot of really fast based single player FPS now.
But I will say, Quake Champions, I did play that for a while. I only ever exclusively played Instagib. And I had so much fun exclusively playing Instagib for weeks. It was great. So Fortnite does not have that gameplay. It just never will. It's a totally different game. And sure, I understand the need for them to push Fortnite to Unreal 5 to help with keeping the game alive. It's just there's no comparison between the two gameplays.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's my big thing is they can say Fortnite, but Fortnite is never going to be Unreal Tournament. Don't at me.
Well, a big thing about like old games like that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you loaded up a game like that, you went into your favorite server, and you played with the people in that server. You didn't queue up for something and get match made with a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And we don't have that anymore.
Well, and you know, I brought up Halo Online numerous times over the duration of this podcast recording history, but that was one of my favorite things about Halo Online. It wasn't, or the first of all, Halo Reach on PC, great, love it. Halo Online was really unique, where they had that server browser. So what me and my buddies would do is we would all get into a Discord server. We were like, hey, do we want to spin up our own server today? No, well, let's just go jump over to this one. And we would hang out in a single server for hours and hours. Yep. And it was wonderful. Also, Halo Online had all the premium weapons. So playing my buddy's coin game mode SWAT Epic was always epic, to say the least.
So Simmons, that Ultra Kill has a free demo, and I just linked it to you down there, so you can just try it.
Thank you.
No, I think a lot of it has to do with the market, right? So a lot of people don't want to deal with a server browser. That's why a while ago, when Team Fortress 2 switched over from having a server browser as the default, having matchmaking as default, tons of community servers just died. Completely died. Because the fact of the matter is this: gaming is like mainstream now. And to make it more mainstream, people want to get in the game faster. And that's how they do it. I mean, that's the hard facts.
Yeah, and I would argue that for the general gaming populace, that's probably the case. But then you look at what is the biggest game of all time in current generation that still has a server browser, and that's Minecraft. So you can just F off. Why don't you? I may or may not be playing Minecraft right now.
All right.
All right, so I think we're at a good wrapping up point, unless you guys will want to address anything else before we close out.
Play Overkill. That's it.
Play Overkill?
Play Ultra Kill. Go play it. It's a free demo. Ultra Kill Prelude. Check it out.
All right, and Jack, you got anything?
Nope.
All right, so on that note, thank you, Frick. Thank you, Jack. And thank you, Mark. And have a good evening, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.